It's time to add another piece to our map, and this time I've got wood from a tree that locals from this state have been wanting me to cover for well over a year. Next, it's the Great Commonwealth of Kentucky, which I'm making out of a piece of wood from the Kentucky Coffeetree, Gymnocladus dioicus. A medium-sized, fast-ish growing tree that reaches up to around 60 to 70 feet tall. It has some interesting history with the state that shares its name. If you caught the Kentucky episode of the official state tree map series, you might recall a saga in which the official state tree for Kentucky went from the tulip tree to the Kentucky coffee tree and ultimately back to the tulip tree again. Check out the Kentucky portion on the official state tree map compilation video for more on that whole thing, but the broad consensus in the comments when the original video was published on TikTok was that settling on the tulip tree was a disappointment since it's also the state tree for Indiana and Tennessee. As a result, viewers from Kentucky have been asking me for a long time to make their state out of this tree. And I'm really excited to finally be doing just that because the Kentucky coffee tree is really interesting. It's considered to be what's known as an evolutionary anachronism. That means that the method of reproduction that this tree uses doesn't really make any sense today. Its seed pods are far too thick and leathery for any animals within North America to chew through, and they're also far too heavy for wind or water dispersal, which raises the question, what's the evolutionary purpose of pods like these? The prevailing theory is that it was the ancient megafauna of North America that fed on these pods. While chewing on those pods, their giant teeth would crack and nick the seeds and aid in germination and spreading the population of the tree. It was able to continue to reproduce after these animals' extinction, primarily in wetlands, where these seed pods could rot away and allow germination without the assistance of massive herbivores. Now, you might be wondering, why is this tree called the coffee tree and not, I don't know, the mastodon snacking seed pod tree? I mean, the tree's not related to actual coffee plants at all. Well, it does have to do with those seed pods after all. Okay, so these seeds aren't coffee beans and they're actually toxic. However, if they're roasted or cooked for 3 hours or more, they lose their toxicity. As such, the green unripe seeds are traditional food for several Native American tribes within the tree's native range, kind of like a giant edamame pod. Now, the hard, brown, fully ripened seeds, meanwhile, can be roasted, ground, and brewed into a coffee-like beverage, another traditional practice among native tribes that was adopted by European settlers, which is how it got the name coffee tree. In fact, the amazing viewer who sent me this piece of wood also sent over some of the actual pods as well, so let's crack into them and see if I can't brew up some Kentucky coffee tree coffee. Now yeah, those seed pods are tough, but the seeds themselves are so hard they feel almost like little stones. And after a trip in a 350-degree oven for at least a few hours, they're looking nice and roasted and smelling almost kind of like dark chocolate. Keeping my fingers crossed that this was indeed enough time to detoxify the seeds. It's time to put them into a coffee grinder for a quick grind, which I probably overdid a bit, but I think we'll be okay. Okay, wow. Yeah, it definitely has a coffee-like smell to it. But before we brew it up, it's time for a bit of a left turn that I'm really excited about. You see, I have some extra coffee tree wood here, and well, we can't just drink this special brew out of any old coffee mug, right? The answer, of course, is no, we can't, and I've also been looking for an excuse to try and carve a kuksa. What's a kuksa, you ask? Well, let me tell you, it's a wooden drinking cup traditionally crafted out of birch burls by the Sami people of northern Scandinavia. A charming and versatile cup used for drinking hot and cold beverages, collecting and eating berries and other foraged items. A kuksa is often fastened to one's belt with a small leather strap, and tradition holds that you never ever wash one with soap. Only a simple rinse in a stream, a lake, or barring that, a faucet. Now that the bowl is all carved out, it's time to take it over to the bandsaw to do some rough shaping. Now if you're saying to yourself, boy, it looks and sounds like he's having a hard time making some of these cuts. I wonder if he needs a new bandsaw blade. The answer is yes. Yes, I did. But the truth is, when I'm mid-filming, I can't be bothered to leave and go to the store and get a new bandsaw blade. I don't know what to tell you. As always on this channel, do as I say, not as I do. If your cuts are looking this rough, go get a new bandsaw blade. You'll be happy you did. But hey, all's well that ends well. We've got ourselves a nice drinkable shape here. So let's head on over to the drill press to make a finger hole. Now after carving the bowl and roughing it out on the bandsaw, I had some trouble hand carving the shape of the outer bowl. I clearly need some better knives. So I used a combination of my belt sander and those dull carving knives to, well, honestly, mixed results. This was never going to be a great traditional kuksa. I mean, it's not birch burl for one. I mean, it looks functional enough, and the wood is certainly pretty. We've even got a hint of some chatoyancy. But I felt like I should probably run this past an expert before using it, and the closest I could find was actually my dad. He's not Finnish, but he lived there for a while, and as you're about to see, the culture, it rubbed off on him a bit in some interesting ways.
Kiva kuksaa. Toivottavasti suomalaiset pitävät siitä. Hyvä keittoa.
I think that meant we're okay. So let's brew up the ground Kentucky Coffeetree beans in a French press. Let's give it a nice stir. And pour it on into our brand new kuksa. Here we go. I mean, yeah, any cup of coffee is going to beat this anytime, but honestly, this is not bad. This is a solid substitute. If you were living in some kind of post-apocalyptic world with no access to coffee, you could do a lot worse than this. But no caffeine, though, that's another story entirely. All in all, not a terrible first attempt, but I figured it'd be worth improving my kuksa carving skills the Finnish way.
Moi olen Justin. Missä on kirjasto? Mitä kuuluu? This is the worst idea I've ever had. Ah!
Okay, I think it's time to finish the state. Kentucky Coffeetree wood is really pretty. It's not widely used, but when it is, it makes for nice furniture, cabinets, and handcrafted items like map pieces. So let's get this up on the board, and I'm really excited because this larger scale means that this time we get to include the Kentucky Bend. That's just a lot of fun. And this is looking excellent up on the board, bordering so nicely with Indiana and Missouri. Let me know in the comments if you've ever tried Kentucky Coffeetree coffee. And as always, tell me what state and or tree you'd like to see on this map next.